My sweet Jenny Jones is the pride of Norfolk, and my sweet Jenny Jones is the sweetest and best.
Marking the May. How do you mark the May? May's Eve, May Day, Old May's Eve and May Day 13 days later by the Julian calendar. Or perhaps you call it Beltane or Beeltene. And Beeltene, as Colette at Beeltene Cottage YouTube channel tells us, is actually the Irish word for the whole month of May. And what a month it is! There are so many traditions connected with the May, but I wanted to look at where I live in Norfolk and the traditions that I know of here and the things that you could adapt to anywhere where you happen to be, that if it fits with your own local traditions and locations. So one of the things, of course, you notice straight away is the burgeoning life and the feeling of everything bursting into passion and fiery, fertile potential of every kind. Here hops are spiralling up the old reed stems, while new reeds are actually bursting upwards and hovering up the old stems. So let's look at some of these traditions, and first of all I wanted to show you the sunrise at Hopton, which is just on the Norfolk and Suffolk border, and it's said that on May Day the sunrise aligns directly with St Michael's Mount in Cornwall, so travelling right across Britain, following a line called the Michael Line, which links such notable sacred sites as Glastonbury, Tor and Avebury and many others, often with a church dedicated to St Michael on top of a high place. It was an amazing thing to do, to be there for the sunrise on May Day, and to share a fire on the beach with others who had gathered there for the same reason. Traditionally, holy wells were visited on May Day as well, often to pray for a bountiful summer, and also for any other purpose which seems fitting at this time of year. And you might leave an offering, or you might do a simple ceremony to mark the May, and to honour the fair folk, of course, and the nature spirits of the place. Lighting of fires has always been a very big part of May Day. And also feasting. These are May buns, they're actually spicy cardamom buns, and they look like maypole ribbons. So I've taken to the practice of making them only at maytide every year. This is the second year I've made them, if that counts as every year. Looking at all the birch trees around the old shop in Crowwood and Acornwood and on the heath, it reminds me that the maypole was traditionally actually a birch tree that the villagers would bring back into a village and it wouldn't have ribbons on, it would just be danced around and decorated with garlands and with bunches of flowers. Jessica Potter in the Greenwood Tarot shows a maypole between the lovers in the lovers card, and you can see quite clearly it's a straight birch pole. I've read that the addition of ribbons was more of a Victorian innovation, and that it was a very picturesque sight to see people dancing around with the ribbons. But I loved the ribbons maypole when I was a child. When I was at primary school, I looked forward every year to when the maypole would be taken out and we would practice. And I think the girls would go around one way and the boys would go around the other, and we'd weave the patterns, and it was just magical. I absolutely loved it. It was my highlight of the year, I think. And I was really sad for my own children that at their primary school there was a maypole. It had been put into a cupboard. I actually saw it, and I was told by the head teacher that they didn't use it because it was a pagan practice and the school was funded by the Church of England, which seems completely crazy to me. I think they really missed out. And when you think of our medieval ancestors quite happily dancing around a maypole and doing all sorts of other, shall we say, traditional Maytime pursuits, which were lots of fun, drinking and feasting and staying out in the greenwood all night with your greenwood lover and bringing back the May. And this was in the days when everybody went to mass at church and everybody was ostensibly a churchgoer. So I may not have a maypole to dance around, but I've chosen here 3 May colours to my eye, pieces of thread like the aquiledias in the garden, and I've made a little plait there which I could wear as a bracelet to remind me of the maytide. And I just thought how the strands hanging down were just like the maypole ribbons, so I really enjoyed doing that out in the sunshine, in the early May sunshine. The Hawthorn speaks of Aphrodisia by Peter Owen Jones. I see you, your hands within the ferns, your hair within the horse's mane, your hips rising in the river's seething. You lie naked over the southern hills and break the meadow's bread. Your scent is bound thick in the evening woods, in the yeasting leaves, the mushroom gills, there in the mud and the moss. I am the mares calling the stallions in, the drifting pollen, the swollen stamen. I am the seed impregnating the soil, the rain impregnating the earth. I am the jasmine impregnating the night, the star impregnating the morning. You can call this love, the making of hands and wings, the fermenting of tigers and shrews. But do not call it shame, not the wielding of lips, the secrets of scent and the patience of eggs. I am awake for you always. I will look for you always, on every path, on every horizon, in every moon. And I will wait for you in the mud and the moss, in the yeasting leaves. I will wait 1,000 years, and cover my skin in clay and ash, and dance your breath with stags and storks, and beg for your flood, your scent and sweat to drown in. And when we meet, we will lock the gates, we will bend like stems, and fold a nest from night, and call like bulls and birds, and writhe in the spate that made the dogs, the lions, the rioting flies, and be the wild horses breathing, the hyacinth rising.